Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. We're your hosts, Bull and P, and we got a few things to talk about in today's video. Number one, our Tennessee Volunteer basketball team just beat Auburn. We're heading into the tournament. Can we get a number one seed? What's it going to take? And then we're also going to be talking about our Volunteers in the NFL Combine. It starts today at 3 p.m., but our first players not participating until Friday. And then we're going to be talking about the changes to signing day. How does it affect our Vols? And what can we expect moving forward? But before we get into any of that, please do us both a huge favor and like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out tremendously as we're still trying to grow. It means a lot to us. So, number one, okay, I want to talk about this video right here of some Kentucky football players that got into a little altercation inside of the locker room. P, I don't know if you saw that or not, but
yeah, okay.
I saw that. Yeah, happens all the time. Happens all the time. You know what I mean? So it's kind of good to see a little bit of that. But I'll say my comments for after we play the video.
All right, so let's go ahead and pull it up. All right, so this is going to go through twice, okay? This is the first one, right? And then we're going to go through in slow motion after this one. But what I'm noticing, just like off of the first one, is that you can tell that these dudes can't really fight. But P, like you said, sometimes you want to see a little bit of an altercation happen inside of the locker room or on the football field more so. But you're seeing that the other teammates just kind of stand there watching it happen. And I mean, man, like the way that they're throwing punches, that's sad. I mean, that is sad. They're tripping over stuff, obstacles. Hopefully nobody got injured. Ooh, boom, suplex. Almost dropped him on his head. You know what I mean? That's embarrassing. And now at this point, once somebody's really getting the better of their teammate, everyone else has to step in and make sure that it's broken up. So very, very interesting to see this happening. I guess Kentucky, I don't know if they're in their spring practices or what's going on, but it looks like they had on some football gear, so they're probably practicing to some extent. But P, is this something that we should be worried about with these guys going at each other's throats like this?
Getting chirpy, it looks like a bunch of daggum females that have been hanging around each other too long, and now they're getting a little hostile. I mean, those punches, like you said, you talk about throwing hands. You hate to see guys throwing hands like that. Like he's literally throwing his hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, flailing his arms.
Yeah, he's flailing his arms like a female would. I mean, the body types are, awful. I mean, who are these guys? You know what I mean? I don't know. All I know who those guys were. Are these guys that play? Because I'll tell you what, the one that was getting beat up, I don't think he was a player. He looked like he was about 5'10", 275. So, I mean, it looks awful. Who's filming this stuff? Who's posting this for the world to see? Just a lot of issues that you have with this immediately. Pop off the tape at you in a bad way. But, I wouldn't be worried about that at all. Kentucky fans need to be worried about that.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing, though, is that, like, why would your teammates be posting this on social media for everybody, other fan bases just like us, to be making fun of y'all? That's dumb, and I'm happy that our team doesn't do stuff like this, but I will say this, right? Like, as we're kind of going into, obviously, we're already in off-season workouts, but we're about to be heading into spring. That's something that we'll be talking about later on in this show. But going into summer ball, that's usually when you see this type of stuff happening because it's hot outside. You're frustrated. Everything is football. Everybody's sore. And that's usually when you see these types of, kind of like fights breaking out. But Coach Heupel does not like it. Now, for us, okay, growing up here in Georgia, like you would expect, okay, like, so football has changed some. But whenever we came up, it was like, look, if you don't have, 2 to 3 fights, in like 2-a-days, summer ball workouts, you're probably not going to have a very good team. You want your guys kind of fighting. But so if I have any issue with Coach Heupel is that he doesn't really allow the players to fight. But at the same time, seeing this, it might be for the best. You know what I'm saying? Because if this is how they fight now, man, that was all types of bad. But I just wanted to, throw that in there because I was, curious as to where's Gerald Mincey at? All the chirping that he's been doing. He ain't no fighter. He ain't no dog, man. Like you went, you know what I'm saying? You wasn't nowhere to be seen whenever the noise broke out.
In the back cowering, you can't find him nowhere to be seen. You know what I mean? So that's top stuff you're talking about, But hey, but maybe that comes from him being Coach Heupel and him, kind of staying away from that. I mean, I don't know, but not a good look for Kentucky. That's for
definitely not. And listen, we are not condoning fighting, but what we are saying is this is a part of football. Whenever you're in the off-season workouts, this is something that does happen. So just a little of a behind the scenes look at what's going on with Kentucky. And I think that they're probably going to have some issues this season. That won't be the last time that they'll probably be fighting inside of that locker room as the season goes on. Go ahead.
I'll say this too. Usually the fights are happening on the field. These guys get into the locker room. You're taking into the locker room.
That is different.
You know what I mean? Yeah, settle on the field. So maybe this seems like it was more of a drama, like I said, like female kind of type of gossip issue. So just a bad look all around for those guys.
All right, now on to our basketball team. We had a big win versus Auburn last night. Bruce Pearl comes back to Knoxville. And I know some people don't really like Bruce Pearl, but I always liked him, okay? Our basketball team was really good up under him. And, he kind of got caught cheating, but what he got caught doing would not be a violation in today's, league. So I'm not angry at him. And actually, we ended up kind of upgrading, I think, with Rick Barnes. But Auburn, to me, they are, probably the second, maybe third best team in the SEC. So for us to be able to get a win the way that we did last night was huge. Let's go ahead and pull up the stats. And what we're seeing right here, okay, number one, okay, Tennessee wins 92-84. And we don't really too much care about Auburn stats at this point. But whenever you look at our stats, right, P, number one, okay, Dalton Connect with 39 points, and he just cannot get to 40. I was hoping that they try to force feed him towards the end of the game just so he could break 40, but he balled out. He had a great stretch. We're going to pull up his highlights here in just a minute. And we know that he's going to need some help, okay, going into the tournament, right? Who's going to be able to help him? Okay, so a lot of people are saying Zakai Ziegler is going to be a guy that can help. He had 17 points, but he turned the ball over a lot. I think that he has to clean that up significantly. And then whenever you look at the two, main guys that we're talking about in Santi, who only had 2 points, okay? And he shot the ball 2 times, which is, that's unacceptable. And then you've got Josiah Jordan James with 2 points as well, and he only shot the ball 3 times. So looking at the stats, that right there kind of concerns me. But then you go down to a guy like Adu, who had 14 points. I think that he played well. We already know about Tobe Awaka with 9 points coming off of the bench. I love what he's been doing. And then, Gainey, he had 7 points. And it's not just all about the points, as we know. There's other factors that play into, a basketball team being a winning team, especially heading into the tournament. But, Pete, what were your thoughts on the game just off the cusp real quick, and then we'll get into the Dalton Connect highlights. What did you like? What did you not like out of our entire team?
Well, I think we came out and we played physical, we didn't back down. It was obviously a big time, conference rivalry game, really, with Bruce Pearl coming back to Neyland, or, coming back to TBA, coming back. So it was obviously almost like a Final Four type game, tournament type game. So I love the way the guys responded. The game started going back and forth. Auburn had to lead late, and our guys kept on. We kept sticking around. I like how we kind of forced it to connect down the end. And, he answered the bell, man. He answered the bell down the end, scored like 21 points in the fourth quarter or something like that. Just ridiculous. So really like what I saw from a lot of guys, man. I think we played physical on the inside overall. But, I just think overall we got to find some more offense outside of connect. So, that's kind of where I'll go with that. But overall, man, love the way this team's playing right now.
All right, so let's go ahead and pull up Dalton Connect's highlights, okay? So he is a stud, and we've said this before on this channel, right? He can put up points. He is a scoring machine. Look at that 3. Boom. That's the NBA 3, right? Just pull up, boom, drop it in the daggone bucket. Now, you love to see the way that he's moving without the ball in his hands. And, again, he's a spot shooter, okay? And he does a great job of, just really getting our team going whenever we need it. And this right here was one of those points, 55-63. This is when we said, hey, Dalton, can you please bail us out? And he does. And P, you and I was talking about this last night. He's very similar to Jordan. This is how Jordan would take over games. He would kind of try to get his team involved. And, if they couldn't do it, then he said, okay, it's my turn to take over. And it's so impressive seeing what he's doing. He's definitely going to be the SEC player of the year, but I also think that he's the best player in college basketball. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he's going to do in the tournament. I had said earlier that I don't know if he can necessarily sustain being able to go on these scoring spurts in the tournament. I think that he can, but I just don't think that that's going to be enough versus some of these better basketball teams. And we need people, Pete, to your point, to step up and help him a lot more. And the main people that I'm talking about, oh my goodness. I mean, he's scoring in all different types of ways, but the main people that I'm talking about are, Santi and Josiah Jordan James. Why can't they, score more points? I mean, like, why aren't they even taking more shots? It looks like there's a lack of confidence with both of those players. And I just feel like, over these next 3 games, okay, well, we've got Alabama, we've got South Carolina, and then we've got Kent. And, then we're going to head into the SEC tournament. Then we've got the NCAA tournament. But we need for those 2 players to step up and take more shots down this stretch so that, we can know that we can depend on those players. Because, again, man, Dalton just can't do it by himself. But, P, what do you think about that? Like, why do you think that, these guys are only shooting, 2 and 3 times in some of these games and pretty much just sitting back and watching DK go to work?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think you look back when we beat Kentucky earlier in the year, that was a game when Dalton didn't really do great. I think he was in double digits, but it was like 15 points or so. But we had other guys step up. It was a lot of guys with kind of double digit type games. And, you fast forward to this game against Auburn, and really kind of lately what we've seen, I haven't really seen anybody put up those points like that. And I think we talk about Santi as a guy who, I'm not sure how old he is, but I know he's a much older guy. He's a guy you expect to be ready for these type of moments, have the maturity and the confidence to say, hey, you know what, I can go get my shot too, create my own shot. Like we just need these guys to step up and take shots. Jordan James, I mean, heck, you're a 5-star guy. Like, go out there and ball. Big, broad shoulders. Has a three ball. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Can do it inside. Has good mid game. Like, he can do a lot of different things. Why isn't he forcing that more? So, I mean, towards the end of the game, you kind of felt like people, the team was just really trying to force it to DK and say, hey, this is your time. You go out there and ball. But I think at least early in the game, there's no reason Santi should have 2 shots or Jordan James have 2 shots. Like, maybe Rick Barnes needs to have some design plays for these guys, get some shots off early or something like that. But they just have to have more confidence, be more aggressive. Because like you said, in the tournament, DK may have a bad game, or people may, double team, triple team, whatever it is. Who's going to step up? Zakai Ziegler, he's only however tall he is. Okay, he's not very tall.
Yeah, he's probably about like 5'9", 5'8".
Yeah, you can't really count on a guy like that. I mean, I love his heart. He has fire, fight, the whole deal. But we need a guy that has a little more size that can do it more consistently, like a Santi or Jordan James, or even, Gainey come off the bench. Like, we just need somebody else to give us some offense. So I think until we see that, this team is limited to how far they can go in the tournament.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll still say that even with just DK, I think that this team is at least going to go to the Sweet 16, depending on how the matchups go. Now, one of the things that we do have some trouble with are those really good, big men, right? And I don't know how we're going to be able to get past that, outside of just being able to score a whole lot of points. Okay. I think that we had to do better hitting our free throws. But, we're not terrible there. But, I think that guys like ZZ, he's going to have to be a lot more consistent, especially than who was last night. Now, he did end up with 17 points, and he does play hard. But first off, for him, running that point, take care of the basketball, son. Okay, that's number one. Stop being so careless with it. And then, whenever you talk about guys like Santi, he's kind of like that junkyard dog type of a player right now, which is good. But he needs to add the scoring to his game as well. Just everybody, if you're open, you need to be shooting. Okay. If you get an open look, don't think about it, shoot it. We need players to do more of that. That's just how I feel going into the tournament. And then I will feel a lot more comfortable about our chances. But, hopefully we can get a good draw where we're not having to go up against a team with some very dominant big men early on. And if we do that, then we're good. If we can get, ZZ not turning the ball over too much, if we can get Triple J, shooting the ball, okay, give us at least, give us 8, man. Like, give us at least 8 points. And then, if we could get Santi, man, look, Santi, same thing. Just give us 8 points, dude. I think that we can be a Final Four team. I'm not asking for too much, but, those to me are the biggest points. Now, let's go on ahead and move on to the NFL Combine, because it does start today. Y'all probably won't see this video before the Combine starts, but it doesn't really matter because we don't have any players that will be participating today. It's going to be the linebackers and the defensive linemen today, which is that's one of my favorite groups to watch. P, I don't know about you, but I absolutely love. Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, secondary players.
Yeah,
those are the best to watch. Yeah,
sure.
Those are always the most fun to watch. But okay, I wanted to pull this up because we did get some updates right to NFL.com's ratings of our players. Starting it off with Kamal Hadden, who will be competing tomorrow. He is listed at a 6.2. Okay, which means that he could be a average starter at some point in the NFL. Okay, that's just what they're saying about him. We're not quite sure how true all of that is. I think he's better than that, but this is the NFL.com's projections. And if you look at, some of his rankings and some of his numbers, okay, his athlete grade at 81, I think that's pretty good, but I think that he's a much better athlete than that. If you look at his production, only at 71, and I guess if they're looking at his whole body of work, but if you look at his body of work from this past season, I think he was better than that, right? So his overall ends up being a 76. And, they've got the, ratings for his, for all cornerbacks in this year's draft. But P, what do you think, number one, about Kamal Hadden, as a prospect, and what do you expect to see from him in this draft? Or I'm sorry, not in the draft, but in this combine tomorrow?
Yeah, well, man, I'm excited for him, man. I think you look at his size, first thing you say, well, you really couldn't ask for much better size. 6'1", 200 pounds. It's pretty well-rounded size. Could do a multitude of different things at that size. You love what he did for us last season. If you go back and study the film, he was our most consistent guy. Didn't really see him get beat maybe once. I'm just going to say maybe once, but I can't remember it. I think that the kind of the knock on him this season, he didn't finish the season, and go back to last season, 2022 season, he had some kind of up and down moments. Maybe that's why you see maybe the production score be as low as it is. I think if you just look at what he did last season, if you could replicate that for another season, I think you see that shoot up a lot higher. But, we're excited about him. I think he's going to test well. I expect him to be a 4-4 type guy. He's going to look fluid in all the drills. We've seen him on film and in practice. Looks great doing all DB drills. Looks phenomenal. So I think he'll test well. He'll probably be do pretty decent on the bench press. I'd probably put him around the high teens. 18, 19 reps. I think he can do that many. So I feel like he's going to do really, really well and make a name for himself and probably elevate his draft stock with his combine performance.
Yeah, for sure. So his overall score by NFL.com is 7th highest for all of cornerbacks. I think that might be kind of a decent place for him, but I do think that he could, potentially move up, P, to your point, if he tests well, because he does have prototype size. And, he played really, really well this past season. Like you said, he was our best cornerback. And, he had a couple of issues as far as tackling sometimes, but that's something that could be cleaned up pretty easily. He just needs to wrap up. So on to the next player, which is Jalen Wright. Okay, so his overall prospect grade is a 6.28, okay, which again will eventually be an average starter. And his production grade, for some crazy reason, is at a 68, which is 11th highest out of all of the running backs in this year's draft. Look, he had, the highest carry per average in the SEC, out of all of the running backs, okay, with 7.4 yards per carry. That should tell you a lot about his production. And then you look at his athleticism score. It's at a 99, right? He's a phenomenal athlete. We think he's going to test, through the roof. His overall score, though, is at an 80, which is actually good for second best in the combine. So, P, what do you think about Jalen Wright?
Man, I'll tell you, they got his athleticism right. I'm assuming 99 is the highest you can get, just like Madden or something. He's a guy, the people who know, they know. Like, this is a guy, track guy in high school. You expect him to run really well. I know he's looking for that 4.2. I'm sure that's what he's looking for. He's going to shock a lot of people, but he's not going to shock us if he does. If he goes slower than 4.2, I'd probably be more surprised. I think he's a legit 4.2 contender. We'll see. But man, his production last season was through the roof. Like you said, 7.4 yards per carry. I think NFL scouts love that. Obviously, you want to see things replicated over multiple seasons. Him having to split a lot of time, I think maybe is why the production score was a little bit lower. But, he had a great season last year. Didn't have a ton of carries, which if I'm an NFL scout or GM, that's more attractive to me. He's got less mileage on his tires. I think he'll be a great fit, can catch out of the backfield. He's going to be well-conditioned, playing in our offense, picked up blitzes very well, smart kid. He's going to interview well, okay, very articulate. So I'm super excited about him. He has a bright future, and I just can't wait to see him go out there and do what he does, because he's going to show out.
Another guy who's going to be competing with Jalen Wright on Saturday is Joe Milton. Now, he's going to have a really, really big day. If you look at his numbers, they're just not great, okay? Production scores at a 67. That's 12th best. His athlete grade is at an 80, which is 4th best. And his overall score is at a 73, which is 10th best. So, again, they've kind of got him in that top 10 range, and he's at a 5.8 on his prospect grade, which is an average backup or special teamer. We know that he won't be really playing special teams, maybe as a placeholder or something, something like that. But, P, what are your thoughts on Joe Milton, what he needs to do tomorrow to increase his draft stock?
Well, I'd be curious. I'm curious to know who they have ahead of him athletically. I mean, I guess Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, freaking Drake May. I wonder who that third guy is, that they're putting ahead of him, because, I think he's that more athletic than all those guys. Maybe Jaden Daniels, but 6'5", 240. I think he's going to run 4.5. He's probably going to have a good broad jump, good vertical. If he does the bench press, he's going to put up numbers on that. This kid's doing backflips like it's nothing, standing doing backflips. So I think he should be higher athletically. But the production, man, he's just inconsistent up and down throughout his career. But he just come out there, whenever he gets his chance at the combine, show that he can put that touch on those passes, make those short to intermediate throws, and then they give him a chance to throw it deep, give him that beautiful bomb shot that everybody loves to see and put around the money, and just continue to be that positive influence that he's been, because, just like his prospect grade shows, he's kind of a projected backup. Scouts, GMs, they're going to be if they're looking for a backup, they're looking for a guy that can bring to that locker room. It's going to be a positive influence, a positive character guy. And he's definitely exuded that throughout his career. I think he's going to interview well, do well on the chalkboard and that whole deal. And eventually he should get his shots in the NFL to prove that he can play. But I think, just go out there and do what he does, man. Be accurate, be positive, and he should have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he's going to test very well, which is going to help his draft stock out. But really, for him, the on-the-field drills is going to have to be very accurate in all of them. Now, usually, with that deep pass that they throw, with that deep fade, running that deep nine, the analysts usually say, well, it's better to overthrow it than it is to underthrow it. But I don't think that that's the case for Joe Milton, because there's so much hype around his arm. He's just going to have to be very, very accurate with everything that he does. So we'll be watching that very closely. And, I'm really hoping that all of our guys will be able to, come out and show that they are some really good football players. All right. And our last segment is going to be about the changes to signing day for football. So the new proposal from the NCAA is asking to have the signing day moved up to the final Wednesday in June. Okay, that would be the first one. Then the next one would be the Wednesday following the football season. And then the last one would be, the first Wednesday in February, which is the traditional signing day. This is something that all of the college coaches have been asking for. And we know that the heads of the SEC and the Big Ten have been calling for this. So we're seeing the NCAA already starting to implement some of the things that, they're asking for. But basically, this whole move is just to give college coaches a break in the month of December. And there's just a lot going on, right? Like the season's ending, so you might be losing some coaches. You've got to do a good job of, maintaining the high school players that you either already have, in the boat or, trying to close out on some other guys. And, then you've also got the transfer portal opening up. You've got bowl season, and now, you're going to have playoffs for our volunteers anyway. So it's just a whole lot for the college coaches. And it's also going to give these high school players a big break, in this month, be able to spend some more time with your family, not have to worry about, dealing with all these college coaches calling you, 24/7 Sports, On3, Rivals, whoever, all of these analysts calling you and, trying to write these headlines. So I think that it is a good thing. And P, what are your thoughts? I'll just say this. It sounds like the, big signing day is going to be at the end of June. But P, what are your thoughts, whenever you look at how things are trending with this new signing day?
Yeah, I echo the same sentiments. I think it's great for the coaches and for the high school players, but to get that signing over with before their senior season starts, and for the coaches before, they really get hunkered down and start their season. This will probably be maybe before camp starts, for the colleges. So they're able to really kind of get that stuff out of the way, focus on the season, and like you said, be able to get that done at the end of the regular season. But maybe I'm old fashioned or kind of out there, but I would almost rather see a model where we almost take signing day away. Like I would like to see a deal where these players can sign anytime they want. And there's not really a day. I don't think it'll ever happen because these kids, they want their big day. They want the ceremony. I think it's good for media and all that stuff as well. But I'll be all for, hey, you offer a kid, if he's sold, he can go and sign right now, and you don't have to worry about that kid anymore. You know what I mean? I'll be more open to that type of model, but I think it's a good model. I think, it's what the coaches want, and should be clean things up and maybe take a little bit of stress off their plate, over the, instead of having to manage a million different things, 365 for full calendar year, you kind of get a little bit of a break from certain aspects of your job, like recruiting and things like that, when you're trying to, manage your roster with transfer portal and just everything else that goes along with it, which is another thing. The transfer portal, how's that play into this? Will it make any changes to that calendar as well? But yeah, I think overall this is a good move. We're moving in the right direction for these coaches.
Absolutely. But how do we see this affecting our volunteers? Well, this is from Matt Ray over there at VolQuest, and these are the dates that we have so far of players that are going to be visiting. Now, if you look over to the month of June right there, we've got a bunch of official visits coming in. So it looks like Tennessee is already prepared, for this change. And for those of y'all that's just kind of like keeping count of what the calendar would look like this season, if the signing day is implemented, it would be June the 26th. Okay, that would be the first signing period for this upcoming year. So we'll see a lot of the 2025 guys would be, wanting to sign on that date. So it looks like Tennessee's already got some good guys coming in that month. Okay, hopefully we'll be the last visit before that signing period. But I think that this is, Pete, to your point, this is very, very, this is critical for how things are going to be changing moving forward in college football. What it says to me is everything just kind of gets moved up, and not just, like on a year-to-year basis, but also I think that they'll kind of start to target, some players in 8th grade a little bit more, because it looks like players will be signing before their senior season, most of them anyway. So you want to kind of get that early jump, and you also have to make sure that you're on point with, what players you want to offer, okay? Because we know guys like Arion Carter, he kind of came on late, but he was a stud. So, you have to kind of find these players early on. I think it still starts in state, okay? You've got to do a great job of identifying the best players in your entire state. And then, you got to probably, for us, move on down to Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, and just make sure that you're in good with these, with these prospects as early as possible. But yeah, I think that it's going to help us out tremendously moving forward, especially, whenever you're talking about, Tennessee, we look at Tennessee as a team that has a good opportunity to make it to the playoffs this season. And you don't want to have to be worrying about, talking to these high school prospects too much whenever you're in a playoff race or, in a championship race. And something else that I think is going to be really big, and we'll keep a close eye on this coming into the spring and coming into summer ball, but being able to rotate players. I think that you've got to put on a show, okay, in the regular season so that these players will know, hey, this is where I want to go. You kind of got to cross off all of their boxes, which would essentially, mean, number one, you got to be able to put players in the league. You've, got to have a good product on the field. Okay, you've got to put up points. You've got to have a good team, got to have a good defense, and you're going to have to rotate players. So that brings me, to my next point. P, what do you think is going to happen in spring practice with all of the talent that we have, coming onto this roster? Do you think that we'll see more players kind of getting rotated in? And do you think that some guys might want to transfer out just based off of that?
It's going to be tough to really get a good gauge on that, because I get the vibe that this staff does rotate during spring ball and during even like kind of fall camp. Just from what we heard last year from the players, they were trying a whole bunch of different guys at DB, a whole bunch of different positions, probably same thing with wide receivers as well. So are they doing it in a way where these players really get a feel for, I'm with the first group, or hey, I'm with the second group, I'm with the third group? And how confident do they feel that they're going to the coach will actually rotate them when the season gets here, like in the game? Hey, will you let my group go in, or are you going to keep the same three receivers out there the whole time, coach? Those are the types of questions that I don't know if they'll get a good answer for in the spring, but they've got to figure that out, especially with our receiver room. You think about a guy like Nathan Laycock comes to mind. Where does he fit into this rotation at receiver? Is he behind Brew McCoy? Is he behind Chaz Nimrod? Is he behind Dante Thornton? Where does he fit in, and will he get to play? Again, you think about guys like Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley. even a guy like Chaz Nimrod, will he kind of get pushed out with the guys we got coming in? These guys all deserve to play, in my opinion. And so, this hype will say, hey, let's slow down the tempo. Does he change? Like, I want to see this hype will change. We've talked about this before. Hype being one of those coaches that kind of gives us a little bit of a guy that's kind of stuck in his ways. Just is what he's always done. It's what works. He likes it. Will he go 4 wide receivers? Go 5 wide? Switch it up so we can get more of these bodies on the field? Because like you said, recruits, they want to see that. They don't want to say, hey, only 3 guys will play, and until those 3 guys are gone, no one else can get to play. You know what I mean? They want to come in here with a chance to be able to play. Same thing with every position across the board. How's the new linebacker coach? Does he rotate guys, at the linebacker position? Are we going to continue to see a good rotation like we kind of saw last season? Same with the running backs with Coach Sims. Is he going to rotate those guys, give Sampson and, Khalif Keith, Sean Bishop, Peyton Lewis to give those guys a chance? Like, there's just so many factors, and I don't know if we'll get a really good look at it until we get into the games, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Well, but that's definitely something that I think this staff, P, like you just said, they've got to do a better job at so that we can, okay, because it's so important with, signing days moving up. We have got to, really show these guys that we are willing to rotate, because I think that's a really big factor in where players are going, and also being able to keep the players on your current roster. I also think the NIL is going to play a big factor in this, and we, have one of the best collectives, if not the best, in the entire country. So I think that, it's going to and now that we can really talk to them, right, about the actual numbers, I think that this is going to help Tennessee out in a very, very major way. I just feel like we've already started to set things up so that we can succeed with all of the changes that are coming. So I'm very proud of the entire organization, top to bottom. But that's going to be it for this video. We'll, have some more things coming out here with the NFL Combine. We'll be talking draft and, everything else. But thank y'all, as always, for sticking all the way to the end. And please make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. And we'll see you all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.